This morning you made a reference to giraffe mourning, and that there's a different way of saying you're sorry to someone, and I wanted to hear what that was.
Okay, let's real quick look at what I mean by giraffe mourning. Think of something you did that you wished you hadn't done. And recall as best you can how you talked to yourself when you said it, or did it, whatever you did. So, what did you do that you wished you hadn't done after you had done it? And give me a sample of what you said to yourself when you did it. You have one in mind?
Okay. That I was feeling defensive and I criticized someone.
So, what you did is you said some things to another person that you wished you hadn't done.
Right.
Okay, and what did you say to yourself when you did that?
Well, usually in the moment I feel, defensive of myself.
No, I want to concretely know, for this exercise, I need to know concretely what you say to yourself when you behave in a way you don't like. This is very important to answer your question about giraffe mourning. It's very important to identify what your inner educator is saying to you. See, all of us have an inner educator whose function it is to educate us when we are less than perfect. Now, most of us made the mistake of sending our inner educator off to a brutal jackal academy for inner educators. And so it's important to be conscious of how our inner educator talks to us. So that's what I'm asking you. When you said what you did to your husband, how did your inner educator try to educate you? It said what to you about what you had done?
In the moment or later?
Either one.
Well, the point when I start to feel regret or sorry is later.
At any point, what did you say to yourself about what you had done?
Okay. I said, I'm a bad person.
Now that's enough, you see. See, your inner educator tries to educate you through penitence, through making you hate yourself for what you've done. It uses language that implies there's such a thing as a bad person. All right. Now, if you apologize out of that energy, that's jackal. Any apology that comes out of thinking you did something wrong is not going to be good for you or the other person. You with me so far?
Well, I know it feels bad.
Yeah, it feels bad. And I really want you to feel bad in this situation. But I want you to feel a sweet bad. A sweet bad that will help you learn from this without hating yourself. When you have a thought in your head that you're a bad person, that's ugly bad. That's a punitive bad. That'll first of all make it hard to learn. And even if you do learn, it's out of self-hatred. So whatever changes you make are at great cost. So that's your inner educator. That was your inner educator speaking to you when it said you're a bad person. Now, we've been learning today that all judgments are expressions of needs, right? So your inner educator means well. It really means well. It wants you to learn from this in a way that will serve life. It means well, it's just its language that sucks. Okay? So we don't want to hear what the inner educator thinks about us. We want to hear the need that isn't getting met, that it's trying to call to our attention. So what need is your inner educator trying to bring to your attention that you didn't meet by how you behaved?
A need to be in relationship with the other person.
A need, in what kind of relationship? A mutual understanding, respectful.
Right.
So it didn't meet your need for respecting and understanding the other person.
Yeah.
And how do you feel when that need isn't met?
Guilty.
then you still got the bad person image in mind. See?
Yeah.
If you still think you're bad, if there's any thinking still going on, that guilt comes from the judgment.
Well, I feel separate and isolated.
But how do you feel? What emotion do you feel about not meeting your own needs for understanding and respecting? See, the guilt comes from that image of a bad person, but what feeling comes from not meeting your need to respond to this person with respect and understanding?
Sad?
That's a sweet pain. See, that's giraffe mourning. So if you say to the person, you know, the way I talk to you, I feel really sad. It doesn't meet my need for respecting you and understanding you. You see, there's no image in there that I'm a bad person. I'm sad. I didn't meet my own need for respecting and understanding you. Check with the other person what they'd rather hear. Whether they'd rather hear the giraffe mourning or the apology that you're a bad person. Yes.
I'm having a little problem trying to find the teeth in this model somehow. It seems like everything is, even though we're talking that it's on a feeling level, everything seems, the way I'm interpreting anyways, sort of on a mental level as opposed to an emotional level. And I guess I operate a lot from my gut, and I'm trying to get down to that somehow. So I need some help with it. Basically, tell me how I would be able to use this technique in my daily life, and to make it so that it's natural. You know, it's not natural for me to operate this way. And,
the first thing I would recommend to you is change the word natural to habitual. Change the word natural to habitual. I think this process is natural, more natural than the way you were trained to think. So Gandhi says it's very dangerous to mix up the words natural and habitual. He says we have been trained to be quite habitual at communicating in ways that are quite unnatural. So I can't think of a more natural way to communicate than to talk about what's alive in us. Just what we're feeling and needing.
But when you feel like if I feel like saying no seems okay to me. But what you were saying before is that.
What do you mean by okay? It's okay to say no.
What do you mean by what do I mean? You know, we can go back and forth.
Pardon?
We can go back and forth by asking each other.
So let me be more specific. When you say no, I predict that by saying no, more often than you would like, the other person is going to react to you in a way that isn't in your best interest. But if you say the need behind the no, that's less likely to happen.
So then, if I understand what you're saying, the idea is to communicate in a way that the other person would communicate back to you so that it's in my best interest?
I'm saying the purpose of this process is to get everybody's needs met, and that the needs are met by people giving willingly, not out of any coercive motivation. And I'm saying that when you say no, it gets in the way of the likelihood that everybody's needs are going to end up getting met. If you say the need that keeps you from saying yes, I predict there's more likelihood that everybody's needs will end up getting met.
So it's just if I understand what you're saying just express your needs without saying the no. But I'm saying the need is a clearer expression of what you're trying to say than no. You get clearer, more connected to life when you say the need that keeps you from saying yes than just saying no. And it's less likely to be interpreted as a rejection, as you being defensive. Just say the no by itself, I predict, is more likely to get you interpretations that aren't in your best interest. Sometimes when I don't hear a no, I look at it as being sort of a passive-aggressive response to something that I might want. Someone, let's say if I make an appointment with somebody, and instead of them saying no, they just don't show up.
Yes.
and then they give me a reason why they don't
Yes.
show up?
I'm not suggesting that. I'm not suggesting that response. I'm suggesting that I would have liked that person to have told you honestly at the time what their need was. I think if they had done that, you wouldn't have gotten into that situation. They said a yes that wasn't so.
Some people won't say, I'm afraid.
Pardon?
Let's say if the reason is that they're afraid to.
It would depend a lot on what has happened in the past to them when they have said no in whatever way they did it. If they have not enjoyed very empathic responses to it in the past, then they're probably afraid to be honest about it now.
I see the value in all of this.
Yeah.
I really do. I guess it's the idea that it's a touchy-feely type of thing that I'm not used to working around.
What you're trying to figure out, if I'm understanding, is how to really put this into a idiom that you can use daily and feels comfortable to you.
That's one way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so in our training, we first show people how to develop the literacy and then how to put it into their regular language. I had a student traveling with me, and he wanted to give me a gratitude, okay? And he liked something I did. I was really working a group hard. And during the break, he said, "Dictator." That was Giraffe. Because he knew that I knew what he was reacting to. He knew I wouldn't hear a judgment. He knew I would guess in there what he was feeling and needing. You see, so he could say that to me, dictator. So after we really know how to clearly identify our feelings, needs, requests, then we can start to put it into a language that can connect us with the people we're speaking with. But at this stage of the day, after one day, I'm still working with you on making sure you understand what a feeling and a need is, because if you don't really understand that, it's going to be hard to know how to then put it into your idiom.
I guess I'm a recovering New York jackal,
I'm getting the impression that apology isn't really the best service of being a giraffe. And I'd like to know if you could I'd like to see you model for me an acknowledgement of missing the mark, sinning courageously.
If you recall earlier, I showed an example of that where I showed the person saying, "I feel sad. I would have liked to have responded with more understanding than I did."
So you're not using the word "I'm sorry." You're saying "I'm sad." You're telling your
It's
feelings.
not so much the word "I'm sorry." What we shifted from was thinking that I did something wrong, that it was bad. It's that thinking that is the problem. And the "I'm sorry" follows from that thinking. So it's not just that I don't say "I'm sorry," I say "I'm sad" if I'm sad. See, the word "I'm sorry" means almost nothing.
Right, it's
People can say that and not feel anything. It's this, you say that to buy forgiveness. So if I'm feeling sad, I say that. I'm feeling sad, I would have liked to have been more aware of your needs, for example, where I didn't take the person's needs into consideration. But I don't say, "I'm sorry, that was inconsiderate of me." There's no self-blame. I didn't do anything wrong. There is no such thing as doing anything wrong. What I did was not in harmony with my needs. I want to mourn that. I'm sad. I would have liked to have been more aware of your needs. Something like that. Does that give you the example?
Very much so. Thank you.
Yeah.